thanks, Guro. Thanks for being here and coming back to Texas and coming back to hang out with our guys and share this amazing lifetime of knowledge that you've accumulated over these years. And one of the, as we go on and as I get older, and I see my peers getting older, and as I teach a larger audience base, I guess, I see things that people go through, and you talk a lot at seminars about, one of the first things you do is how many people are in their 30s, how many people are in their 40s and their 50s, that sort of stuff, and kind of get a feel for the room. What do you notice about, as you travel around the world training all these people, what do you notice about changes in age? Is it?
I think you really don't notice it until, for me, like when you hit 40, you lose a certain amount of speed, and you lose some amount of strength even. Strength you can keep on if you work on it, and skills, sometimes flexibility comes along part. So as you age, and I think every 5 years, like from 30 to 35, 35 to 40, 40 to 45, 45 to 50, 55 on. So increments for some people, it's about 5, maybe for some people 10 if they've been gifted or inherited good genetics. But you definitely have to learn how to train at each 5-year increment. I think it's important, and then it's knowing when to push it, when not to push it. And sometimes you feel lazy and you don't want to push it when you should push it. So that's important.
Yeah.
And a 35-year-old for one person is different for a 35-year-old person, depending on how much they kept up. But I think if you have a healthy lifestyle and you eat sort of properly, you can go a long time in it. You're constantly learning from everybody. I've always learned from people who were younger, and I learned from people who are older than me. And I like to take the wisdom of the past. It may not be 100% correct because they may be gifted with better genetics than you.
Sure.
But I think definitely you learn how to train it about every 5 years in increment. And then if you do that and you make mistakes and you correct it, and you're going to go through injuries. I went through lower back injuries, I went through shoulder injury, went through hip, I went through knee, I went through ankle, pretty much. And then you have some things internally. I've gone through the ulcers. I had to teach one time 6 months in a row of ulcers. I didn't know what it was. That was very painful. Gastric system went off a couple times. I'm going through gout, so you learn how to eat properly. Right. Because you can't eat what you want to eat. Some foods will influence the gout. Right. So your levels go high in uric acid. So you have to know it's like combat. You have to kind of learn how to problem solve. And sometimes you make mistakes and you correct it, and you make mistakes and correct it. Right. I don't think there's any absolute rule. It's because what works for somebody at 45, those guys in 45, they can still do a flying sidekick. Right. To the head. Another person, that's out at 35. Right. So we've been given different talents from the Creator, and I think that's important to recognize that. Right.
I remember when your back, years and years ago, your back was really hard, and you had a hard time, teaching and traveling. How did you recover from that process?
I went to, I think, 5 different doctors, and there was a Filipino man by the name of Sam Tendencia, and he said I could fix it. I met him through Jack Santos, who was my other screamer teacher, and he says, I can fix that for you. And then I need 2 or 3 sessions. But actually, I had to sleep sitting up because it was a pinch nerve. And if I got down to the sleeping position, it would just fire. It was like electricity. And he worked on my body. He would kind of realign the nervous system. And what I learned from him, because they don't have the background, it's by feel. Yeah. That's why when 2 people massage you, even though they've been to the same massage school, one person does it better. And what he had a knack was that he understood the skeletal system. He understood there was a nervous system, and then there's a muscular system. And then there's something that goes above the surface of the skin, which I don't know too much. And he says you got to treat everything. So whether it's the respiratory system or the nervous system or the skeletal system, or the muscular system, you have to know what's wrong. And then the nervous system is very helpful because when you have a pinched nerve, you have to know how to pinch it, get it out. And I've been to 5 different doctors. Yeah. And he did it through manipulation, which I thought was kind of interesting. By the first session, I think he took off 90%.
Wow.
90%.
First session.
And I said, I'm cured. He said, no, I'm not. He says, I need to go a couple more sessions. And he did it that next session, and then I was by the second session, I was completely cured of pinched nerves.
Right.
Now, it could have been other things, but I attribute to him because I went to 5 different doctors, plus a chiropractor,
Right.
2 chiropractors. So that's a lot of different people. No one could really solve it. And he did. And then later on, you learn how to, different people come in your life and they teach you how to stretch,
Right.
what exercises to do, and I think that's very, very important.
Sure. Yeah.
You kind of learn from everybody. Everybody sort of becomes your teacher.
Right.
And your own students become your teacher, I think. And,
Yeah.
very lucky to have the students I had because they've, stayed with me and they helped me grow. And I probably learn more from my students than they learn from me. I've found that to be true for me.
Sure. Yeah. And now, I know when I pick you up in the mornings, you've already done a mobility workout. You get every morning to do some.
I do things that are very simple, like crawling.
Yeah.
We would call it commando crawl.
Yeah.
I learned a modified form of bear walking, or just lying on your back and rolling from position. Russian system teaches that also. I thought I was just unique by discovering different things, but they have a system of rolling on the mat. The mat or the earth massages you,
Oh, yeah.
And so I learned from that. And then I said, well, I'm doing that. And then everybody comes in my life, they show me little mobility exercises. Now, without mobility, you can't move.
Yeah.
And you lose that, I think, as you get older. It could be your skeletal system will go out of whack, or your nervous system, or your muscular system. So you just kind of learn how to.
Right.
And they all work in unison, Something's off in the skeletal system, it's going to affect the muscular system. It affects the muscular system, it's going to affect the nervous system.
Right.
So you get to know. And then there's a different thing, like some people are specialists in more on the tendon, the attachment,
Right.
and then the ligaments. They know how to work it,
Right.
And I let everybody work on me because I think everybody, like Luna does some pretty amazing stuff. He moves in there and he manipulates it, and I think that'd be painful, but it seems to work,
Right.
So everybody, for me, has helped me on the path. I don't think anybody going on the path. You need help.
Sure.
No matter how good or strong you are, no man's really an island. People help you along the path,
Right. And as you train people who are at different ages, how do you modify for people who are maybe not as mobile or not as in good a shape?
You test it to the edge. If it feels very uncomfortable, you just take it to the edge a little bit, then back off. It's like the poundage of weight you might use, or if you're just using body exercises. Instead of doing 50 reps of jump squats, maybe you just do the squats for 10 reps.
Right.
Then move on to something, and then come back to the end. Then you go. It's learning how to train, I think, at every age level that really helps. Right. Then you make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And then I correct it, and I do it. I don't think there's a particular way, because I think every individual is different.
Sure.
It's real. I think Bruce Lee's correct. You want to research it. You want to experiment.
Right.
Then you'll create something for yourself. So if you research and experiment and create, then you research, experiment, and develop something for you.
Right.
And it's uniquely different because you know your body.
And so that applies to the healing and maintenance just as much as it does the combat.
Right. You tell the guy, they go, oh, Guru, you're doing something wrong, man. You got to do more of this. You got to do more of that. You need more ab work. You need more of this and this. Your coordination. Oh, you're stifling it, and you listen to him and you do what he did. And then another guy said, no, you're doing too much of that. Right. This is bad. It's stressful for your joints at your age. Don't be doing those 50 jump squats. You're hurting your knees. That's why you're soring your hips. You're soring your knees. So I'll back off.
Right.
So everyone teaches you, and then you have to go and. It's like going in a restaurant. You got to pick your own meal.
Right.
And sometimes you make the wrong judgment, and you just correct it. And so it's the process of correcting, and then doing it, correcting, and doing, correcting, and doing it.
Right.
Martial arts the same way. You work something in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it works well for 1 week until everyone knows how to get out of it.
Right.
Then you have to find another game.
Sure.
Or else you can't stay in the game. It's sort of like that.
Yeah. When you trained, I mean, when you were younger, I mean, college football, being Bruce Lee's sparring partner, I mean, just you were, as far as athletes go, you're at the top of the game in the martial arts world, phenomenal shape, and if people weren't around then, there's plenty of video to see of you when you were young doing that sort of stuff. And you've maintained a really healthy lifestyle. And
I tried it, but everybody goes off the path.
Sure.
I think, and then you go back on the path.
Yeah.
So I've made a lot of mistakes, sometimes too much, sometimes not enough.
Sure.
And I'll get with a person who'll say, no, you need more of this. And sometimes it will be wrong, and sometimes it'll be right.
Right.
But if you do it enough, and then you correct it, and then you go on. It's like diet. How many times you change your diet?
Sure. Yeah.
And, and pretty much. And I've seen Bruce Lee go through that. He was in with this Rio Blair diet one time where it was only milk. I go, gosh, that's powder milk. How the heck does he live off that?
Right.
He was on that for a while, and then he went off of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I think to just feel it. If you feel it, you pretty much are right.
And so you saw Sifu Bruce doing the same thing in his personal life with his personal training and maintenance. The same thing.
He was always constantly changing. The beautiful part of Bruce, he never had to experience old age.
Huh. Yeah,
So
that's true.
we'll always remember him with the lats and the 8-packs. In fact, the 6-pack and the 8-pack was very unusual nowadays.
Yeah.
Because the ideal look in our days was Charles Atlas, smooth muscles, big deltoids, big chest.
Right.
Bruce Lee was the lats, it was the forearm.
Shredded.
He was shredded, which was. Many people at that time said, man, what's he been in a concentration camp? It doesn't look right. Because that was an unusual look to have 6-packs and 8-packs at that time period. So in one generation, and he learned. He made mistakes too, like good morning exercises with 120 pounds. That's why his back went off. Then he realized that's too much.
Right.
It's like preparing for a marathon or a half of a marathon. You have to know what's too much, what's too little. Or preparing for a Muay Thai fighter, too much of this,
Sure.
too much of sparring. That's why closer to the fight, they don't do anything but just the coordination, because they really went through that, or at least supposedly went through all the parts where they possibly risk.
Right.
But American football went through that. Before they used to scrimmage every single day up to the game time. Then they realized, hey, we're losing a lot of players.
Yeah,
So how about we only scrimmage on a Monday and Tuesday, and we'll lightly taper off on Wednesday, Thursday, and then we play a game on Friday and Saturday.
Right.
So even American football had to go through that type of training.
Sure.
Long distance runners is the same way how they train.
Right.
One generation sort of improves what the first generation did, but it's my belief that they would never get to the levels where they are without having the generation that preceded them.
Right.
It would be like a jet pilot making fun of a World War II ace.
Right.
Well, you guys only did it in propeller planes. We did it in jets. Well, you have to go through the process,
Right.
Without that group going to the propeller planes, maybe the technology that went into the jet fighters of that time period, they wouldn't have. So we owe the knowledge of the people that preceded us.
That's right. Well, thank you for being one of those people for me and for thousands of us around the world, and for sharing all that stuff for us and being such a great example for what we can become if we stay that path and keep working and growing ourselves, and we really appreciate that. Thanks, Guro.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.